How's it going, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Trailmakers Creations. This is it. This is the last video I'm making this year. I'm not making any more this year. That's it. So happy New Year's to everybody out there. Thanks for joining me. We're going to be taking a look at 7 or 8 different builds in this video, and we'll be getting back to the high seas in the next video. So for now, let's take a look at some of the things I've built in the meanwhile. We do have some boats as well, a couple other cool things as well. So we'll start here with the BLUELINE battleship. Obviously fairly simple kind of style battleship. The hull is nice and stable. You can see we've got our double row of cannons on the front and our single row in the back. We can jump in the seat here, armored seat of course. We can rotate on the spot. You got like tank steering. So we can rotate this way. Spacebar gives us our gas. Now there is a stabilizer on the inside. On the back side. See way back there at the back, we have a couple of helicopter engines that will keep us from tipping over with speeds. So you can take this into the high seas as well. Left shift fires all our cannons in succession, bang, bang, bang. And then we got Q and E, which will allow us to raise or lower those as we need them. And we have good enough steering that we can literally turn on the spot. Track down any target that you want. Find the range. Game over. But yeah, nothing really super fancy about that. It was just a low-slung battleship in the water. Good for water combat. Good turning. Very good handling. You notice how the explosions don't hear them when they're underwater anymore, when they hit the bottom of the ocean. You used to be able to hear them, but since after the update, you don't hear them anymore. Alright, let's take a look at our next build. And our next boat up for display is the SS Gulper. I know, kind of a weird name. I know, a little bit weird, but that's alright. It's got a reason why it's called the SS Gulper. So this was like a miniaturized pirate ship with all kinds of small details on it. You can see it's got 4 rudders underneath for turning. It's got propellers connected to the ones on the back. Plus we've got a stabilizer, as you can see here in the middle. In the bay there, we've got some extra weight. And we've got our helicopter engines and our angle sensors there, keeping that nice and stable, because it does have decent speed when we hit space. Now, you saw those parts just fall off from inside there. Those were a bunch of detachable blocks. They're on a flat surface that's on the inside. That was just going to cause drag. I decided I'm going to use that detachable block glitch, the zero friction glitch, just so that's creating a little less drag, and the ship moves at a little bit better pace. So we've got really good steering with this. We've got our rudder plus those 4 mini rudders on the bottom there. Plus our stabilizing system keeps us from tipping over. Of course, we got our wonderful flags and our crow's nest up top. It's like a mini pirate ship. Now, the reason why it's called the Gulper, and you can see we have a cargo hatch here in the back. We can hit O to open that. So we've got an opening hatch in there. That takes us right down underneath there. There's nothing on the bottom, but you could probably maybe retrieve something through there, catch something through there, put a magnet or a little arm that just reaches over top. That was kind of cool. It opens and closes. And then we have 1 and 2. 1 is our magnet in the front that you can't see, but number 2 opens up the front of the ship. So we have this compartment up front here with our magnet. So we can grab something, pull it in if it's small enough, or we can just grab it with our magnet like this, and away we go. She's a little bit rear end heavy. When she's open like this, that's alright, that's okay. We can also close our sails. We got lots of controls here. Let's see, G and H. Let's see what those do. What do you know? G and H. Opens and closes those sails on the forward. And then Y and T, I bet. Yep. Rotates your sail, your main mast, so you can catch the wind if you're doing some sailing. If that's your thing. And then, let's see, we got Q and E. Yeah, that'll probably get rid of those. So we can get rid of everything. Close that up. Turn the magnet off. Decent control. Again, it doesn't tip over because it's a stabilizer. 3-axis stabilizer. If you haven't seen that video, check it out up here. So that is the Gulper, and as you can see why, because it's just going to gulp up whatever it comes across. Small boats, things like that. Probably would need to be a little bigger to actually get a creation in there. Maybe a good place to store like a little canoe or a little jet ski or something. Or a good place for a pirate ship to capture a small vessel. Lad. And that's it. Everyone would wonder what happened. The ship, it ate it. Opened up and it just swallowed it whole. So the SS Gulper, I will be uploading that to the shop. If you're looking for a nice little mini pirate ship. Nice small details on there. Alright, on to the next build. So what we have next for you here is a Vortex shark. Guess what that's named after? Yeah. So, we hit number 1 and he does this. All on his own. Swear, I ain't touching the wheel, man. So, he does that all on his own. Not moving too quick, 30 kilometers an hour. Just enough to be cruising. We hit the space bar. Picks up speed. To about 50. And then, of course, we have our steering, WASD. And it is a sub, so we can dive down into the water. A little bit of clanging and banging, some sparks. You get this many big moving pieces, or when you're trying to turn against what the programming of the hinges is. It's usually when you get a little resistance as well. So it naturally wants to come up to the surface. You can use the arrow keys to drop your ballast all the way down, so you can drop down to the bottom. It actually uses his front fins here for up and down and turning left and right. And he's got a stabilizer in him too, so he tries to stay as upright level as possible. His lights are eyes, and his eyes are lights. It's amazing how that works like that, eh? Again, those big fins on the front will come off pretty easy if it hits the ground. And left shift opens the mouth. Ah. Oh. So, yeah, we won't attack the carrier, but he's pretty big. It's a pretty big build. 700 complexity. We come up to the surface. Can't really get much air with this guy. He's pretty big. Splash. But that's a pretty big, creepy looking shark. Vortex shark. I've already had a couple of encounters with some boats in the multiplayer servers. That's always fun to bring this in. Start attacking people's boats. I just can't help but always remember that infamous Jaws line. You're going to need a bigger boat. So, Vortex Shark, that will be available on the shop. And again, the build on that is, again, using the fins. They actually work better than wings, I hate to say it. As far as stability, vertical and horizontally, they work really, really well. And this shark design is just, yeah, some basic big tubes with some flotation in them and some programmed hinges. I made a how to make your creations wiggle video. I'll post a link to that up here. Have a look at that if you want to know how to make something like this, or a snake or something like that that wiggles back and forth. That's a pretty scary thing to see in the murky water like that. I like how they added that as well in the new update. The fact that the water gets murky, you can't see all the way to the bottom. Very realistic, creepy looking. So sticking with that creepy theme, let's take a look at our next build. So most people are afraid of spiders. It's the second most feared thing in the world next to clowns. Or clowns are second and spiders are first, something like that, but I know those are the top two. And I'm one of them. I don't like spiders. They're like little alien critters. They don't belong here. So this is just seat steering right here. Just being able to turn because it's nice and well balanced. But this build uses a altitude sensors connected to these upwards facing propellers. So you see I'm not sinking in the water, but there's no flotation devices on this whatsoever. So just those upwards, and then you can see servos on the fronts and backs. Well, on the backs anyways. And then the actual spider motion. And yes, I know before any of you give me crap for calling it a spider when it's only got 6 legs. This insect then just has a running, you can see A, D, and 1 are the only controls. So the running number 1. And then we steer. And there it goes. Not doing nothing. It just runs on the water itself. The back propellers angle a bit so that when they go into the water they push it forward. And there's enough propellers on the front here to keep the front end up while it's running. As long as you've got the right leg motion, there it goes. Nothing else that you can do really. You can steer and you can stop. That's about it. So it's kind of like a hover spider. It does kind of walk on land, which is why there's suspension on the bottom of the feet, just so it doesn't end up smashing off parts. But it's it doesn't function as well on land as it does on the water. So you can see how it's fully automated, so you can just jump out and let it do its own thing. Send it like a missile, arm it with a bunch of explosives, and send it after somebody. So let's see how it does when it hits land and tries to walk. So just like any walker in this game, the problem is getting traction on the ground. It has the right walking pattern, but it just can't get grip on the ground. Right? So those back propellers are far enough out of the water that it can't. Hey! So they can't push itself out of the water, especially even up a slight slope like this. You can see it wants to try and get traction, but it just doesn't happen. Get out and then take a look at how it walks. So as you can see, it does move slightly. It's pretty janky brown spider. But it's like an albatross. When you see them walking on the ground, they're just stumbling around, they're overweight, they're unbalanced. But as soon as you see them in the air, it's you'd swear that's where they were born. Super graceful. So we can just rebuild this. See how quickly it pops out of the water. Then hit number 1, and Spider-Man walks on water like Spider-Man can't even do. Alright, so that is the water walking spider. Put that on the shop. Check it out. Alright, on to the next build that even as it might be a little creepier than this. So if you were out at sea and it was dark out, do you think it'd be kind of creepy? Maybe see something like this come up out of the water. And then do something like this. This is the Shadow Dutchman. It's a relative of the flying fella, but this one does not fly. It just hovers way high above the water like that. It's very creepy looking. It's all black. A pirate ship of death that seeks out corrupt and evil individuals and reclaims their souls. You know, because it's like they got value on eBay or something. But yeah, that's a pretty freaky looking ship. So it hovers above the water like that. Number 1 will bring it back down to water level. We also have some black fog coming off of it. Trying to give it that ominous kind of black fog effect. Use it a little bit though. It's unbelievable how heavy those parts are that make the exhaust like that. And then it's also a sub, so we can also shrink down into the water. We can close up our sails, increase the speed as well, and then use our up or down arrows to sink down. Once we get down low enough in the water, we have some propellers actually on the mast itself, up near the top of the mast to keep us down in the water. It gives us a little bit more control. If we're hitting W, it'll keep us level in the water like this, and we can also steer. We all got all kind of steering underwater. And that way, we can be a black pirate ship like this, open up them sails, come rising up out of the water, freak some fellas out. We can come up out of the water like this, freak some folks out. Come all the way up out the water. So that's a pretty scary looking ship. Let's have a look at that in the daytime, shall we? So that's what it looks like in the daytime. It's still all black. Nothing has changed. You can see the smoke a little better. And you can see how thin that hull is. Tall and skinny. And again, what's keeping that up in the air is right along the bottom of the hull. Again, a bunch of those upwards facing water propellers. Yeah, that's my new thing that I've been into lately. How many different ways can I use that? And you'll see another way in this video still ahead. So pay attention. Stay tuned. You're going to see it. So there you go. Shadow Dutchman. That was a cool one to build. Fun to build. Good hull design. Nice and skinny. Let's take a look at our next build. And this boat is called the SS Gallant. It's just a fancy boat. Again, trying to make it look like, you know, if millionaires were back then were to build a big sailboat, what would it look like, right? So you got the big figurehead on the front there. And we got some folded up life rafts there. Obviously a little too modern for back then, but you know, on the front deck there. Our ports, our wheels spinning here, that's where our anchors would pop out of. Those would be like anchor holes. And then we got some viewing port windows in the back here, in the back of the galley. See, we're up here in the crow's nest. We can come down here, take a look. See, we got a little cabin down here inside. If we go down first person view, you can see inside the cabin here. We've got just a little cabin. There ain't no furniture. It's just a place to sleep, get out of the stormy weather. A little bit of a window in the back there. You can jump up here on the back side. Oh, look at that. We got some little parrots down here by the wheel. And when we steer it from down here, it plays us a little tune while we're driving. But you can see how that can get annoying real quick. Like, what's up, parrot man? See the little parrots, how their heads lift? Alright, but seriously, folks, that's why we have a crow's nest. So we can control it from up here. So spacebar again gives us some fuel. You notice the very familiar hull design. Same thing as the battleship. But yeah, that was just a super fancy. It's all gold and blue. We got all our sails here. Again, 1 and 2 will open and close all of our sails so that we can get some decent speed. There's a stabilizer inside as well so that we don't tip over. So you can take this into the high seas. It can be all rich and fancy smancy in the high seas. Yeah, that was a good try at building like a fancy boat. Not a battleship, but something that rich folks would have sailed across the ocean in a couple hundred years ago. Whoa, see, those make good air brakes, eh? And I noticed that too. You notice they catch a lot of air, those sails. They're actually really good at, like I said, acting as stabilizers or even wings. So I've noticed a couple of folks have tried some things like making parachutes and stuff like that. Like Cosmonaut tried to make a hang glider. I'll post a link down to his video down in the bottom of the description there. Go have a look at that. He also tried making a cigarette boat, like a real high-speed racing boat, for on the High Seas map as well. That inspired me to make one myself. You will see that in an upcoming video. Stay tuned. Hit subscribe so you see it. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. Alright, so we're going to put the SS Gallant away. And like I said, these sails work really well as catching wind. So I was like, well, I wonder how well they catch the wind. So then I tried this. So what we have here is a flyer that I call Batman's X-Wing. Yeah, I know, right? Batman in a Star Wars movie, or yeah, maybe. Could happen. Could happen. So again, this is a flyer. It has no wings on it. All sails. They work that well and fly that stably. So let's spin this around this way. And it's got a diving bell on there simply because it's symmetrical and it fits properly. So we got 4 servos back here that you'll see operate in a second once we take off, and our 6 main thrusters there. And then we got some little tiny mini thrusters in the back underneath that you'll see once we're in the air. So spacebar is our thrust. It'll get us into the air. We can see our top wing there acts as our lift, our flaps. And they also act as those little side wings there, little tiny triangles, act as our turning. So we have really good steering. No problemo. Actually flies really level. That's just holding. It actually flies really, really well. Those sails catch the wind really well. So then I was thinking, okay, well, if it flies this stable like this, what happens if we want to arm this thing? So you can't necessarily see any weapons on it, right? So if we want to arm this thing, then we hit number 1. Folds open this way, wings fold open that way. All our guns point out, and now we got all kind of firepower. We got our 4 cannons coming off of the tips, and all of those ones that came out of the body that suck inside the body. Oh, we can turn those off now. It's a good thing. See, it doesn't even destroy us when we have them tucked inside because they're glitched into the body. Of course, I should call myself that glitch guy. So yeah, it's cool to see that open up and transform. Wings fold forward. Guns all pop out. And it's still fully flyable like this. Full barrel rolls. And again, you can adjust the speed on that because there is a helicopter engine in between the front of the cockpit and the front of the plane. That also lifts up and down a small amount. And that's where we get our lift. So we got excellent control for dogfighting. This you could probably actually dogfight if the other guy was flying one of these too. Because again, there's not many connection points on these and they're not very strong. A couple of taps with a couple of these bullets and that would be game over for that. You'd be losing parts and then you would not fly so well because it would be seriously unbalanced. Number 1 will close that up again and we are totally flat. So that is Batman's X-Wing. That's what I thought. It looks like an X-Wing, but it looks like something Batman would own. Like it's half X-Wing, half Batman. It's a Batwing X-Bat thingy, McWingy. On to the last build of the video. I lied. This is actually the penultimate build of the video. So, using that same the whole sail catching the wind concept, I was like, okay, so how simple could you go? Like Cosmo's hang glider, I was like, okay, could you build like a sail glider or something more like a hang glider, not a hang glider, but like a sail, what do they call those, like the really wide ones, right, with all the strings on it. It's like a parachute, but you're on the ground. And there's some that are even powered. They have a small fan behind them, so they're pushing, so you can stay up in the air longer, ride the vents. So I thought something similar to that. So I built this here, which is just a couple of sets of wings arched across the top, and then we have some pipe pieces connected to steering hinges that are set to 1 strength. So they're still floppy, but they want to be a little bit rigid. It's really weird. I've tried setting them to other strengths, and then it just does not work the same. So you can see how these wings are catching. All I've got for power is my 2 little propellers. That's it. And then those 4 water propellers are for when we let go, we end up in the drink. That's okay, we don't sink. So I can just hit space, and you can just pull yourself right up back out of the water. So the only controls on this is, as you can see, the space bar. Everything, all the steering is just seat steering. So you just lean a little bit, and like I said, those back wings, those sails act like vertical stabilizers. Work really well. All you gotta do is let go of your power to angle down a little bit. Tap, tap, and there you go. Nice, peaceful flying. Now, I've never tried this on the high seas map. I imagine you'd be able to fly into the wind or away from the wind, and that's about it. And it will tell you which way the wind is blowing pretty darn quick, I reckon, because it's nothing but sails. But again, it's a pretty easy build to take apart, right? You can put maybe a couple of small guns on here, and then try and have a kite sail fight. That's what I call this. This is a cloud kite. So we can, because you're drifting nice and slow, you have nice, easy control movements, no rush, nice and small, right? Flying at like 50 kilometers an hour, no problemo. Spacebar, WASD, not even WASD, it's just seat controls. So we're just sitting right in there, having a nice, easy flying time. It's always a good experiment with those sails as well, and that works well. Alright, and now to finish something with a little more excitement, now we're going to look at the last build of the video. Alright, so this little racing seat, this is called the Bullet Racer. So, as you can see, this is a pretty simple build. We've got a couple servos, a couple of steering hinges, a couple of thrusters, 4 propellers, some vertical stabilizers, and a couple angled pieces, and that's about it. And we got our altitude sensor right there, connected to those 4 water propellers. Now all I'm going to do is hit number 1, and those servos are all going to angle forward slightly. Which brings us up to about 80, 90 kilometers an hour. Now steering is what those steering hinges are for on the front there. That will simply angle our propellers in the front so that we can steer. And then what I call second gear, this is first gear, basically cruising speed, right? You don't have to touch nothing, it just stays going straight on the surface like that. And then second gear is when you hold down the space bar and you double your speed. And you can still steer. But again, let off the gas a little bit. Let the front end drop into the water so that those propellers grab a hold. You can turn a little bit tighter, but at least you don't sink. Hit the gas again. So it's almost like a drifting, it almost drives like a race car. You know what I mean? That's why it was like a bullet racer, right? These would be cool to race around. To have 2 of them, same power, same speed, and then it just basically boils down to control. So you let off the gas, tap, 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 come short corner and on here. It's almost like drifting in a sense. You want to let yourself slow down so you can get traction, and then turn sharp and then nail the gas. You can turn a little bit while you're doing maximum speed, but you don't have the same sharpness that you do. You can push down your nose a little bit too. You want to get it into the water a bit quicker. Sharper turns. So that is a cool little racer. That is the bullet racer. And again, no flotation on that. Great way to make boats. Trying to experiment with how to make things float without making things float. You can almost hydrofoil, but unfortunately they still have to be touching the water in order to activate to get any kind of lift. So not quite hover pads, not quite gimbals, not quite buoyancy, just a little bit of everything. Alright guys, we're going to leave that one here. We're going to race off into the sunset, or towards the sunset. There's no sunset. There it is over there. We'll race off into the open ocean. Thank God there's no giant waves on here. This thing probably wouldn't handle it very well. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like button. Leave a comment down below. Let me know which was your favorite out of these ones here. Don't forget to check out the other videos I mentioned in this video. Have a great New Year's, and we will see you in the next one next year.